Hello there, welcome to the channel. This is Nerd World Empire. If you're new here, please like, share, subscribe if you enjoyed this video and hit the bell notification icon so you can stay up to date with all the most current releases. If you're not new to the channel, same thing if you haven't already done it. With that said, today we're looking at Admiral Les Beunamigo. Beunamigo was a successful career Starfleet officer who had achieved the rank of Admiral, a fleet officer within Starfleet and very high-ranking and seemingly respected member of the Admiralty, if not suffering from the sort of mental condition that most Starfleet admirals seem to suffer from: evilness, like at the core, evilness. Again, looking at you, Admiral Doherty and Admiral Cartwright, and just pretty much all the others. Except Nechayev. You're the queen, Nechayev. With all that said, let's get into his life. We don't know much about exactly when he enlisted in Starfleet. We do know that he was a career officer, and in the 2370s he was still at the rank of Lieutenant Commander. He had his sights set on the big chair of Admiral from a very early age and worked diligently in his career to get there. Something he would eventually do, but in his own words, once you become an admiral, you get to the top, you hit a wall. You gotta make a name for yourself, you've gotta do something incredible. He would, as usual, become involved in various shady dealings and unusual projects. One of his pet little projects was the development of an advanced AI system, which I personally akin to not being too dissimilar to the M5 computer developed by Daystrom, which was not exactly a great success story. But, that said, this time was definitely going to be different. He would make use of a Starfleet cadet who had a flair for this kind of technologies, Cadet Samantha Rutherford. Rutherford was an expert in this particular field, and he was helping to develop the technology. If not knowingly, then he was doing it. But an accident while building his racing craft left him severely injured. Beunamigo ordered invasive and very dangerous surgery to be performed on the cadet, giving him cybernetic implants supposedly to enhance him, and then altered his memory to make him believe that he'd had these things done on purpose while suppressing the memories of the projects he'd been involved in. Later, when Rutherford was assigned to the USS Cerritos, and by this point now of course Beunamigo was a full admiral, he was well into the development of the Texas-class starship, which would be a fully unmanned and automated spaceframe, and he wanted to prove how useful it would be. But rather than allow a situation to present itself and actually demonstrate under natural circumstances how this vessel was genuinely useful, he would decide to manufacture a circumstance, sending the California-class USS Cerritos into dangerous situations that he had created, while having a Texas-class ship lying in wait to assist them. The Cerritos would be engaged in this situation that he put them in by several Breen warships, and being a California class, not the most powerful ship in the fleet, basically a glorified tug with some phasers, it was quickly overwhelmed and overpowered by the vastly superior and tactically more proficient and experienced Breen warships. But the Texas class swooped in and did exactly as advertised on the hull. It blasted the hell out of them with all guns blazing, drove off or destroyed all the Breen vessels. Beunamigo had been observing the situation with the Breen and knew it was an opportunity that he could exploit. He was more than willing to put in jeopardy the lives and materials, for that matter, of the USS Cerritos. All of its crew were basically expendable as far as he was concerned, but he knew that the Texas class, the Aledo, would be able to save them. And that's what he sent it in to do, and it did, and actually performed and did its job. But it did its job under a circumstance that he had created. It was later that Rutherford and others would begin to determine that there was something wrong with this situation. They would determine that a previous program that Rutherford had created had also gone a little haywire, shared some commonalities with the base programming of the Texas class. Realizing that there was a fatal flaw in the programming, he realized the AI brains could never be given full autonomy. Basically, we were looking at 24th century Skynet here, people, and this man was behind it. This was Miles Bennett Dyson of the 24th century, only he'd more knowingly created it. He would then, in desperation, after lecturing them on the fact that once you're an admiral and you hit this wall, you've got to make a name for yourself, otherwise there's just nowhere to go. You're at the top and there's nowhere to go but down or be forgotten. And he didn't want either. He believed this was the future of Starfleet. It would save lives, and if he had to kill a few people in order to save lives, then so be it. He'd sent people off to die during the Dominion War. What was the real difference? Probably his rationale. He was nuts. He then ordered the Aledo and her sister ships, for that matter, to engage the Cerritos and destroy it, when they basically tried to challenge him and were going to arrest him. But the flaw that had been identified by Rutherford and other Starfleet officers involved in researching this and investigating this reared its ugly head. The moment the Aledo had autonomy, it disobeyed orders. It would then open fire on Douglas Station, where Admiral Beunamigo was, killing him instantly in a barrage of heavy fire, and would then proceed to, all three vessels would then proceed to attack the station, as well as engage and disable several other Starfleet vessels, before eventually themselves being overwhelmed by a fleet of California-class starships. The long and short of it was, Beunamigo may have at one time been an ambitious, career-hungry, intelligent, dedicated Starfleet officer who may have come up with an idea that he genuinely thought might save lives. But like many admirals before him, we finally got an insight into what exactly it is that drives them to such desperate actions. The kind of actions that Paxman did, the kind of actions that particularly admirals like Admiral Doherty would do in forging alliances with the Sonar. Any action that justified the ends, you could justify the means to do it, as long as no one found out, which is pretty much how the Admiralty of Starfleet seem to work. They all seem to be like evil incorporated. This man was no exception. His fall from grace, if there ever was any height that this man truly aspired to be at, as we can tell that even at a younger age he was quite willing to mutilate another Starfleet officer to cover up what he was doing, without hesitation. He'd have done well in Section 31, but at least Section 31 genuinely worked towards the betterment and goals of the Federation and its survival, and don't develop machines and weapons of war that would probably destroy it. So, a one-time ally of many Starfleet officers and respected commander who participated in various events over the course of the career of Captain Freeman while she was commanding the Cerritos, turned out to be something of a fox in the henhouse. But what do you think of this admiral? Is he misunderstood? Did he just go off the deep end right at the end? Was his career one of distinction and note, or was it as corrupt and filled with bile as I actually suspect a man like this truly was? As Picard would once so eloquently put it, and I have to paraphrase him here because I am not the orator that Captain Picard is, you have to be constantly vigilant. Justice, freedom, these things have been earned, but they can be taken away so easily when one person gets a little bit of power, and things you thought you've left behind, the witch hunts, the persecutions, the injustices, they can all start to rear their ugly head. We think we've come so far, when really we've still not gone far enough. And that was, again, Picard dealing with another evil, sodding admiral. What is it with the admirals at Starfleet? Leave a comment in the space below, like, share and subscribe, and I hope you enjoyed the video, and that is the end of it. I'd just like to say a thank you to everyone for watching that video. I hope you enjoyed it. I really enjoy making these. If you did enjoy it, please consider giving a like, share and a subscribe, and maybe checking out the other videos on the screen right now, and in the description box below there are links to my other social media accounts.